Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to another conversation on Safe Space. I'm your host, Sharice Munoz. Safe Space is a conversational panel that is intended to be free of judgment, harassment, and emotional harm. We ask that you keep an open mind and be receptive to different perspectives. This week, no, I'm sorry, this month is Diabetes Awareness Month. And I have dedicated conversations to um, diabetes, the experience of type 1 diabetes. And today I have a special guest who's a type 2 diabetic. Her name is Stephanie Collins. She's a former CPS teacher, an activist, and an educator, and former CTU member. She's going to share her experience living as a diabetic. Stephanie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Sharice. I am Stephanie Collins, and yes, I'm a retired public school teacher, but I'm also still a member of Chicago Teachers Union. I want to put that little plug in. Um, and it seems like diabetes tends to run in my family. I discovered I had diabetes about 20 years ago, and I've been managing it pretty well. As a matter of fact, my diabetes is very much under control. Um, but you have to be careful about stress because that contributes. Because before I was diagnosed, I was caregiving for several years for my mother and my half brother, and that took its toll on me. You don't think about yourself. As women, we tend to put ourselves on the back burner and care for other people. I was not eating properly. I was not getting rest. I was going to work. I would stay there to get my work done, and then I would immediately go to the hospital or the nursing home where my mother was and stay till midnight. So I was just like grabbing food, and I gained a lot of weight. So since I became diabetic, it made me very much aware that I have to be careful because it's so many problems that diabetes can lead to. It can lead to blindness, it can lead to loss of limbs. So you really have to manage it well. And I am on medication, and I'm also on insulin. And I think I started insulin maybe about 4 years ago, and I only do insulin once a day in the evening, just 10 units at night. I check my blood sugar every morning, and that's what kind of guides my eating for the day.
Okay.
Okay. And I have also lost about 95 pounds over a period of years. So that means that I have been gradually losing the weight and I'm not gaining it back. I try to be careful about what I eat. Yeah, I cheat sometimes, but when I check my blood sugar, and if my blood sugar is good and I feel like, okay, I might cheat a little bit today, I still monitor and just have a little bit of it. Try to drink plenty of water. That's helpful. First thing in the morning, water. Before I put any food in my mouth, water. Um, I'm very conscientious about taking my medication. I also am conscientious about going to my doctor, to my primary care physician when I have my appointment set up, and I always have my blood tests. And we do what they call A1C test. I don't know exactly what it stands for, but anyway, it's testing your blood sugar over a longer period of time. And they usually want you to shoot, if you're a diabetic, for you to shoot to 7 or below. Well, over a period of time, I'm down to 6.4. And every time I go to the doctor every 6 months, it's down a little bit more. So
Okay.
you just kind of learn how to eat right. And also, I discovered there are certain things that I can eat that maybe a diabetic shouldn't eat, but it doesn't seem to elevate my blood sugar, like alcohol. Not that I'm a big drinker, but I find one glass of wine will shoot my blood sugar up. But
Okay.
tequila does not elevate my blood sugar. Go figure. And they say it's because it's made out of agave, whereas most alcohol is made out of, berries like wine or sugar.
It's
So,
fermented.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
Right. So, of course, that's my drink of choice when I do drink. I don't drink every day, but that's, like, so I can go out and socialize and have a cocktail. Um,
Okay.
there's certain foods that I eat that don't seem to affect my blood sugar, but it might affect someone else's. So, what I'm saying is you have to kind of learn your body
You have to
and
monitor
learn.
yourself.
Right, right, because everybody is different. So learn your body, learn how things affect you, and always, always, always be sure to check that blood sugar.
Now, we're going to back it up some years, Stephanie. How did you first find out that you were a type 2 diabetic? How did you first find out that you were even diabetic? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember because I started experiencing shakiness. I started experiencing frequent going to the washroom. And my mother was also diabetic. So I kind of knew the symptoms. I knew about checking the blood sugar. I knew about being conscientious of taking your meds and all that. So I suspected.
Now, was
Um,
this over a period you experienced these symptoms? Was this over a period of time? Was it like a
it,
couple days, a couple weeks that you had
it was over a
noticed?
period of time because I remember I was in grad school and I was working trying to finish up my thesis. And so every morning I would get up and go down to the basement to where my office was, and I would be working. And
Mhm.
then I would just all of a sudden start getting the shakes. And then I noticed I was going to the bathroom. So over this whole summer period, I noticed that. And I remember going back to work because at first, I was in denial. I said, this is not happening to me. And I went back to work and I remember I was working in my classroom. The kids weren't there yet. And I was just feeling so bad. All I could do is put my head on the desk. I was feeling shaky and weak. And so at that point, I said, let me call my doctor. And I really didn't have a primary care physician. I just
Mhm.
called and I went to urgent care at University of Chicago. And the doctor that saw me there said, well, I'll be your doctor. And he's been my doctor ever since.
Okay.
So I kind of knew the signs and the symptoms based upon my mother. So fortunately, because I went and we did all these things, and he said, yes, you are diabetic, I had to have an insulin shot because my glucose levels were really high. But I got my glucose levels down in 3 days. He gave me medication and he started me out on a small dose, very small dose. I forgot what the medication was, but he started me like on 2.5 milligrams. I think I did it twice a day. And that got me down. And then, of course, I had to learn how to use the glucometer to take my blood sugar.
Mhm.
And I'm squeamish, at least I was. And it's like, okay, it's trying to stick myself. That took a while. Um, and then my colleagues at work said, you lost a lot of weight. And I said, no, I don't think so. Because I hadn't weighed myself in a while. I didn't like to weigh myself. And I said, no, I don't think so. But I was also wondering, why do I always look so bummy? Come to find out, all of my clothes were too big for me. I had lost about 20 pounds over the summer and didn't even realize it.
Wow.
So that was the beginning of that weight loss thing. And I mean, I'm still working on it because I haven't gained, which is a good thing, but I have set myself a goal. I said, okay, if I can lose 20 more pounds, I'll be good.
Mhm.
And basically, I think it's because of the change in eating, and I don't eat as much. And
Mhm.
before the pandemic, once I retired about 5, 6 years ago, I started going to the Y every day and
Okay.
exercising.
Size, yes.
Yeah. And I would I started slow. I think I did like 1 or 2 days a week. And then I started moving up. And once I got to 5 days a week, then I started bumping up the hours. And
Mhm.
I was doing 2 hours, sometimes three, to the
Okay.
point where I was like kind of really addicted. But it was really good for me. Of course, COVID messed stuff up, but I
Mhm.
still try to do my silver sneakers, my virtual silver sneakers on the computer in the mornings.
Okay.
So it's still not the same as the Y or going to someplace, a health center where you have classes, because I need to be accountable to somebody. And that's why I like
Okay.
instruction, because you're doing it by yourself. You say, okay, yeah, that's enough. And nobody's really pushing. You say, come
Mhm.
on, you can do it. Come on, two more, two more.
That
So
extra encouragement. Yes.
exactly. And then you have your classmates. So, and I have a friend, B. Lumpkin, who is also a retired educator, and many people probably know who she is. She's 103 years old.
Yes.
B.
Yes.
B. Lumpkin was my workout buddy. And we
She is a
weren't doing,
force to be reckoned with.
she is a force to be reckoned with. And we didn't do those little old people classes. We did the real deal. We weren't doing the chair exercises. We got our weights. We were on the floor. Uh, you name it. Maybe not running so much, but moving very fast.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
But
So
I'm not
she,
surprised. I'm not
yeah,
surprised.
yeah. So we were exercise buddies until COVID. And that kind of did us in. But I think she's still exercising in her home. She lives in a high rise, and so what she does is she sneaks down the back stairs and goes down and comes up. I don't know how many floors, a million
Okay, walking
floors.
flights of stairs to
Yeah,
exercise.
she still
Yes.
does that. I have quite a few stairs in my house, but I miss that camaraderie of going to the Y.
Mhm.
So and I,
Having
like I
having
said,
someone there, a means of support.
exactly, exactly, exactly. And there were a lot of people at the Y that were diabetic, but we found that when we exercise, we kept it under control.
Yeah.
And you also
Now,
have to eat.
how important, Stephanie, is it for you to have that community of individuals who are also diabetic, or is it important for you to have that community? Is that necessary?
No, it's not necessary because some people that I know are and some people aren't.
Mhm.
And I just know how to eat and I know how to just handle my business and carry on. After the Y, we would always be hungry and we would go and have lunch somewhere. And so a lot of times I would just have soup and salad. I didn't do the whole whatever and dessert. Soup and salad, and I was happy. And you learn to kind of enjoy that kind of food. And my whole eating, even cooking, has changed. I've even kind of been trying to get red meat out of my diet. It doesn't always work, but I'm almost there.
Diabetic or not, removing the red meat is
Yes.
that's something everyone should be doing. Definitely.
Because what I've learned is that red meat is very heavy.
Yes, it
When
stays
you
in your
eat it,
system for such a long time.
yeah, I feel it, for a while. So
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, I don't know if I like this feeling. And
Mhm.
so I just kind of back off of it. So it's every now and then I might have something red, but I don't cook it in my house. If I have something red, I'm out.
Okay.
I'm out maybe at a restaurant or something. But
Okay.
yeah,
No.
yeah.
Now, with being diabetic, how do you manage your medication? Is it a lot of trial and error? Do you find something, you stick with it, Or are you the type of individual that if something new is out, you're willing to try it?
I'm not always willing to try anything new. And when I first was diagnosed, my doctor and I went through different medications to see what worked and what didn't work, because some medications I had reactions to.
Okay.
And if you listen to those commercials on TV when they're talking about these medications,
The
and then they
side
start
effect.
talking real fast at the end. So, and at one point he was trying, because my blood sugar was kind of going up and up and up. Because one thing about being diabetic, I don't care what you do, for whatever reason, blood sugar starts creeping up at night when you're asleep. I don't know why.
Mhm.
Nobody knows why, but that's what happens. And so my numbers were going up, even though I was taking my meds and everything. So we tried, and this is before I was on insulin, and then we tried another medication that made me instantly sick. I started having headaches. I was lightheaded. I was scared that I was going to pass out. I was calling the doctor on call. And so they kept telling me, just drink water, flush it out your system, keep drinking water, drinking water, drinking water. And I kind of went back to my old medication. And so at that point, because my doctor had been trying to get me on insulin for a while, and I was kind of afraid because I could, it was bad enough I'm sticking my finger every day. I said, now I got to give myself a shot. And I didn't know how often or how much. So I said, you know what? I'll do the insulin, because I was kind of sick of experimenting with the medication. So I said, we'll do the
Okay.
insulin. So we always start out low, and then work our way up to see, what works. And after a couple of months, and I had vast improvement, I said, you know what? If I had known insulin was this easy, I would have started with it a long time ago and not taking the pills, because, insulin is natural.
Okay. Okay.
Insulin is because, your body produces insulin, and that's the difference between type 1 and type 2. Type 1 diabetics are usually not producing insulin. Type
Yeah, that's
2
what the doctor told my son. His pancreas no longer
is not
produces
working.
insulin.
Type 2, our pancreas is working, but we need some help.
Okay.
So that's where the medication, or that's where the insulin comes in. So, and that's why I don't have to check my blood sugar all day, every day. And, like before you eat, after you eat, all that kind of stuff. I do a fasting in the morning. That's it. But that's me. Other
Okay. So
people might
that's
have to do,
individual basis.
that's
That's not all.
individual. Right.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So I'm still at the check-in in the morning, and I know whatever it is, that's how I do my day. Because sometimes I slip up and it's a little higher than I want it to be, but it's not way in 200s or the 300s. I say, oops, I try to rein it back in before it gets to that point. So I'll increase the water, and I say, no, I'm not going to eat anything sweet today. And the next morning, I'm usually fine.
Okay. Now, being a type 2 diabetic, how has this impacted? Because you continue to be very active in the community, in
Mm-hmm.
education, with the union. But how has being a type 2 diabetic impacted your interactions, your day to day living?
Well, I had to get used to, because sometimes I might have to eat. I might have to eat more often. I don't eat one big, but I might have to every couple of hours
So it
have
seems like you're
something.
forcing yourself to eat on a more regular basis.
Right. Because, yeah, as a matter of fact, I say when I'm eating, I have to feed the diabetes. So it's like, all right, wait a minute, I might have to have a snack. I mean, and I carry a little fruit or whatever, just to have something in me to kind of just work, and so I don't get hungry. Because if you ever go into hypoglycemia, is when your blood sugar drops real low. It's scary. I've had that happen to me a couple of times since I first started. lately, since the pandemic, for some reason I was feeling weird and I'm like, what is this? And I checked my blood sugar and it's down to 42. And I'm like, oh my God, I have glucose tablets I keep in my house for emergencies. And then, try to eat a sandwich. I keep peanut butter in the house. I keep cheese in the house. So I can have a half a sandwich until I can get that. And that's when I will check my blood sugar a little more to make sure that it's coming back up. But that shaky, sweaty feeling, and then you're also very irritable. So you might snap somebody's head off. It just makes you, I don't know, just makes you kind of irritable. I remember it happened to me once when I was teaching, and I was teaching division to my students. And I'm looking at this problem, I'm demonstrating on the board, and I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, what is it that I'm trying to do? So from that point on, I learned to keep like a candy bar in my desk in case sugar level drop. And then my principal allowed me to have one of those little refrigerators in my classroom. As a matter of fact, diabetes is considered a disability. So because of ADA, they had to let me have that refrigerator so I could keep my diabetes under control. So if I had to eat something right then or drink some juice right then, it was right there.
Did you ever train your students on symptoms to look for?
In the beginning, I did. I had a little boy that knew what to do, and he knew where to go. He would run. I say, so and so, go to Miss so and so's room, and he'd go, and he would come back with something, and then she might come and pop in and make sure I'm okay and not sprawled out on the floor. So yeah, I did that.
Oh wow!
They say that you should let people that are close to you know that if I start talking kind of weird or acting weird, tell me to check my blood sugar.
Okay.
So that's always a good point. And because I'm diabetic, and if somebody starts acting out of character and I know they're diabetic, I say, have you checked your blood sugar lately? You kind of have to do that because that's what it is.
I know I do that with my son. He's an adult now. And when he comes over and he seems to be a little grouchy, and it's so weird because when he's like really, really grouchy, I'm like, check your blood sugar. When's the last time you took insulin or something? Or when he's like really off the chain, goofy, and with my younger son where he's up in his room just bothering stuff, taking things off the shelf. My younger son, Mom, he's taking all my clothes out of the drawer. And we're like, he probably hasn't checked his sugar. He probably hasn't taken too much insulin or something. So he's just, and now that you say that, we were jokingly saying that, but that is definitely the case.
Yeah. And as his family, you all need to really know that. Even his little brother could say, hey, have you checked your blood sugar? What are your numbers? Yeah.
And how do you know what numbers work for you? Do you identify with a certain set of numbers, or you have to adjust to numbers that work for your body?
I have adjusted to numbers that work with my body, but there are suggested numbers, and that's where I started. Okay, because for example, I think they suggest if you're fasting, taking a fasting blood sugar, you want it to be a 125 or less. Well, I feel better when my numbers are like 80, 95. Okay. It's still not too low for me. I've even gone as low as 65 and I'm fine. When I hit the 40s, that's when it's like, no, get something right now. But I have gone down to 65 and I feel okay. But then I also say, let me get some food in me because you don't want it to drop. And especially if I'm getting ready to take my morning medication, because I take medication twice a day, because your pills, your medication will bring your blood sugar down. So if I'm already at 65, I don't want to go down any lower. So I eat the food to at least keep it there, on that level.
Okay. Now, with your medication, you're taking diabetic medication in addition to insulin?
Yes,
Oh, wow.
I'm
Okay.
taking metformin, and a lot of people take metformin.
Okay. Now how does that is it a support to the insulin? I'm not familiar with because I'm just
I
used to Novolog.
Okay, I was on medication long before insulin, and so that's basically what I took. And as my numbers were not coming down, because as you get older, it's nothing is flat. As you get
Right.
older, things kind of change. And so my doctor started increasing the metformin, but then he didn't want to go up anymore, so he gave me another diabetic pill. I can't remember what that was, and that wasn't helping. So he said, your numbers are going up when you're asleep.
Okay.
And that seems to be the trend, I guess, if you get to be a certain age. And so that's when he started playing again with the medications. And I took one different medication, and when I got sick, I said, nope, I'll go insulin. Let's try that. And that seems to be the answer for me for now, anyway. And I mean, because I still have a range where if he needs to have me go up, there's still more that I can take. I'm only doing once a day. So, I mean, I could do twice a day or 3 times a day, but I'm still good where I am with the once a day. So I'm trying to keep it that way by watching my food. When I cheat a little bit, what my cheat sheet is, make sure you get a little protein. If you eat meat, a piece of meat,
Mhm.
or a block of cheese, because that's protein. Protein slows down the sugar breaking down of the sugar in your system. So it slows it down. So it doesn't all just kind of zoom through your system. So that's something that I learned. And I learned that from a nutritionist, because of course he had me talk to a nutritionist when I was first diagnosed.
Mhm.
And then they know people are going to cheat, and so they say, well, if you feel like you need to have this, then you got to give up something else.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I mean, know that starch turns to sugar,
Mhm.
so eat some meat and eat some vegetables.
Yeah, the
If
counting the
you
carbs. That's when you have
Right,
to count your carbs.
right.
Mhm.
And when you are looking on reading bottles, don't look at the sugars, you look at the total carbs of
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
I tell people that all the time, because they say, well, it only has X amount of sugar. I said, you have to read total carbs, because carbs
Yes.
turn into sugar.
And that's what everyone thinks when you're diabetic. Oh, just cut out the sugar. When my
No.
son was diagnosed with being a type 1 diabetic, we took a nutrition class and they taught us how to count carbs. And I found out everything has carbs that has, which is the sugar. And I found out so many different foods that I was like, oh my gosh, this food can kill him. There's so many
Yeah.
carbs. He can't eat, even with fruit, because you think, okay, so you're diabetic, no more sugar, just eat more fruits and vegetables. There are a lot of fruits that have so many carbs in them.
Yeah. I used to drink a glass of orange juice every day. I was allowed to do that. I would drink 4 ounces of orange juice, and I would add another 4 ounces of LaCroix sparkling water. And
Mm-hmm.
don't gulp it. You kind of sip it, take it slow. And I was allowed to have that. And usually I drink orange juice in the morning. That's any kind of juice. I always mix it with water. But like my doctor says, even though you mix it with water, that same sugar is still in that food. It doesn't make it go away. People think I can just stretch it out and put water in it,
Diluted.
dilute it. The sugar is still there. If you have 50 grams of sugar and you can add water, there's still 50 grams of sugar in that liquid.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
That
It
definitely,
doesn't
when you think
make the
about it.
sugar go away.
Yeah. Now you have only
So,
20 carbs of sugar. No, you still, there's 50 carbs that
right.
are still in there.
Yeah,
Wow.
right. So That's what I learned. I've learned a lot over the years, and so then after a while, you don't start craving that kind of stuff.
Okay.
You don't
Okay.
even you don't want it. You don't have to have it. Um, they say if sugar is very addictive. And if you don't eat sugar, and I'm going to talk about easy sugar like candy or cookies, whatever your little weakness is, if you can cut
Mhm.
that out for 3 days straight, after on day number 4, you're usually pretty good, unless you start eating it again. Because you almost have to go through withdrawal to get that out of your system.
Mhm.
So, and I go through periods where I feel like I want something sweet. But if I go 3, 4, 5 days and I haven't had anything sweet like a candy or cake or whatever, I find that I'm good and I'm not craving it.
It's
'Cause
like breaking a habit.
it is.
That's really what you're doing, breaking a habit.
Even those sweeteners like Splenda. I used to use Splenda.
Mhm.
That makes you crave something sweet. I don't use Splenda either. If I'm gonna have coffee or tea, I just go on and put the spoonful of sugar in it and call it a day. And it's never as sweet as the Splenda. And so you have to get adjusted to just that teaspoon of sugar that you use. Hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's one thing. Besides the fact that they say it could cause cancer in lab animals, uh,
Yes,
but
definitely.
that equal the what's the pink one and the Splenda, all of that makes you crave
I
sugar.
did not know that.
Yes, it does. And I'm a living witness to that
So you
because
just
I
might
could
as
put
well. What about like the honey or the agave syrup?
honey, honey and agave is good for you, but still it's the same thing. It's sweet.
Hmm.
Even though it may be natural, it's sweet. So I don't use a lot of honey and I don't use it every day.
Okay. Okay.
I go through my periods if I have a cold or something. You know how you make a little hot tea with lemon and a little
With
honey
honey,
to soothe your throat?
cayenne pepper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's one thing. But I don't use honey every day in my tea. No, because that would raise my blood sugar.
Okay. Now, on the nutritional aspect of being a diabetic, do you do a lot of meal prepping for the week?
Unfortunately, no. And it's only because I no longer have a family. I'm not married. I don't have any little kids. So basically, I'm fixing for myself. So I have stuff in my house. And then if I feel like I want something, I can get up and just go and get it. I can get up and go to the store whenever I want to.
Okay.
So no, I did that more when I had a family living in the house. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And
Yes.
it's so much easier when it's individual because I know with me, when I have to cook, especially when I'm on my weight loss journey, it's like I have to prepare 2 meals for the family because they don't want to eat the lean broccoli and chicken breast. So it's like
Exactly.
preparing that. But when it's just you, it's like I can fix with today. I can just eat cereal for dinner, actually.
Exactly. Or I'll say I can have peanut butter sandwich. Peanut butter is protein. Or I can have some soup, or I might make some soup. I keep chicken broth, and I'll get some frozen vegetables, and uh, I have some shrimp, and just kind of throw that in there. If I have some leftover rice, I can do that kind of stuff when I'm just fixing for me.
Yeah,
You
small
know,
portions.
right? And then I keep salmon, I keep seafood in my freezer, so I can just pull out a piece of salmon and just bake it or broil it and have a little vegetable and maybe a little potato. Sweet potatoes they say are pretty good for diabetics, and I don't put anything on my sweet potato other than a little butter and salt. I don't add the brown sugar and stuff.
Okay, yeah, yeah. That's with when I have baked sweet potato. Just do the butter. The salt is new for me. I just cut it down the middle and put a
Yeah, and
side of butter.
it's good. I like it like that. If I'm doing something special like Thanksgiving is coming up, you know how people used to put brown sugar and butter and cinnamon and marshmallows, I'll do that. And
Right.
I might eat some that day and then I don't want any more. So therefore, I don't fix a whole lot of that.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I might make just enough for maybe once and maybe a little bit for tomorrow. And that's it. I'm done.
Yeah. Also, you're not preparing for the entire weekend. No, no.
And
Okay.
it's really nice. And then you can cook what you want and get better cuts of food and fish. Cause see, I buy little lobster tails. So you can't do that when you have a family. You can't
Yes,
feed your family
exactly.
salmon. You know,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Husband
So
and four kids, you can't do lobster tails for dinner.
exactly. And so when Mariano's has their sale on cold water lobster, I'll buy up a couple and I will steam one at a time. And so again, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? Oh yeah, I got those lobster tails.
Whatever I
You know,
want.
exactly. And my vegetables, my frozen vegetables in the summertime, I can buy fresh. But
Mhm.
my frozen veggies work for me.
Now, I have a question. Traveling overseas, being a diabetic, has that been much of an inconvenience for you?
No, because I travel overseas all the time. What
Mhm.
I do is I make sure that I have my prescription bottles with me. So if
Okay.
anything happens, um, the pharmacist can see what the prescription is.
Okay.
And sometimes they recommend you have your doctor write out the prescription on paper so you can also take it to the pharmacy in case you lose your medication or run out. Okay. So, um, yeah, and then what I do is also use an empty medicine bottle to put my needles in. So when I give myself my shots,
Okay.
check my blood sugar and whatnot, I put them in this empty prescription bottle and I bring them back home with me because you have to be careful of how you dispose that. So I bring that back home and dispose it because I keep like a bigger bottle, like a laundry detergent bottle in the city of
Mhm,
Chicago anyway.
mhm,
They say
mhm,
laundry detergent bottle, you put all of your needles and stuff in that, and then you tape it up and just put it in the garbage can.
mhm. We would put them in like a 2 liter bottle. We'll keep them, and then my husband, it was some place that he would take them for disposing of needles. It was some
Okay.
location, but we would always have, and it was just when people would come to the house, they would look like, "Why do you have a 2 liter filled with syringes?" It's like, "Oh, my son's a type 1 diabetic." And
Yeah.
so,
I
other
just,
people
yeah.
who have diabetes, they understand the
Understand
struggle.
that. Right. So yeah, so I just keep it in the bathroom so nobody really sees it but me. But that's I went to Walgreens and I asked them, I said, well, how do I dispose of this? And that's what they told me. So they
Yeah.
said, but but there has to be a thick bottle, like you say. So
Mhm,
I do a
mhm,
big detergent bottle, and then they just say wrap the
mhm,
cap with tape to make sure that it doesn't open up.
mhm. And then
And
we
I
would have
think,
the little caps where I think he tests his blood sugar, and so it's like a little triangle,
and you
round
put it
little
back in
tube.
that cap.
And we would find them every, and I'm like, why? Why are these all over the house?
I
What is wrong?
know.
But it's that's when you, especially when you have a young, immature teenager that's a type
Yeah.
1 diabetic. Yes.
Yeah,
In the
they're not
cars,
thinking.
everywhere. And I'm like, oh, you're in the middle of
Yeah.
driving, testing your sugar. What?
Yeah.
That was just, but being a diabetic, it is really inspiring hearing how you continue to manage and you don't allow diabetes to hinder life and
No, I
living
don't.
to the
No,
fullest.
no, no. Yeah, because my doctor said, "Oh no, you keep this up, you're gonna live a long time." Because I do what he says and I listen to my body. Also, I wanted to remind people too, make sure that you have your medications in your carry-on. Don't put it in your checked bags.
Okay.
Keep it in your carry-on, including your glucometer, your insulin, and those needles, because who are those people that that do the inspection of your bags? They know what that is.
Okay. Right.
So that's not a problem. You don't even have to have a prescription. They understand that. And
Okay.
I've never had a problem with that. But you don't want to put it in your check bags because, sometimes check bags get lost.
Right. Right.
So,
Definitely.
and if I have all of my prescription bottles with me, even though I know I'm not going to be there for that long a period of time, but I need that prescription bottle in case something
Mhm.
happens to my medication. All of that is in my carry-on bag because you don't want to lose that.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
You keep that with you like you keep your passport.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
ID,
Mm-hmm.
you definitely don't want to be without it.
Right.
Definitely don't.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, Stephanie, I have enjoyed our conversation about living while being a type 2 diabetic. Thank you so much. It definitely has been very informative. My viewers, I'm definitely sure that they have learned about being a type 2 diabetic. Thank you so much. And I'm definitely going to have you back on so we can talk about how you being an activist and life after retirement, because when you shared all the things that you have been doing, I'm like, are you sure you're retired?
I
But
know people ask me that all the time. Are you retired? Are you sure? No, not really.
but when you're doing something you love, it's
Hmm.
not considered work. So you
Right.
definitely gonna have to come back and
I
share with
certainly would
us.
love to do that. This has been a
Yeah.
wonderful experience for me. Thank
Thank
you for
you. Thank
inviting
you.
me.
Oh no, when we met at um, the state reps Collins birthday party, I was like, I know her, I remember her, and then we had a chance to have such a rich conversation, and I was like, no, she has to. And it was it was God, because I had no idea you were type 2 diabetic. I was just, talking about things that I'm doing, and
Hmm.
you share with me. I'm like, it's Diabetes Awareness Month, so you have to come on and share. So it was meant to happen. It was definitely meant
Yes.
to happen. And
Yes.
I have enjoyed it, and I'm definitely going to be bringing you back to have conversations on safe
I would
space.
love it. I would love it. I would love it.
Thank you. Well, this is the end of our conversation. Please join us again next week for another conversation on safe space. And as always, take a moment and shine your light in the dark. Goodbye.